The single dad woke up in the hospital with a sharp pain tearing through his chest, and the strange weight of silence pressing on his ears. And the first thing he saw through the blur of white lights was a familiar man sitting beside his bed. His boss. The same man who had fired people without hesitation. The same man who never stayed in one place long enough to notice anyone suffering. Now sitting there like he had been waiting for this moment his entire life. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us that life can change in a heartbeat, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner before we begin this journey. He tried to move, but his body refused to obey, as if it had been taken apart and hastily stitched back together without permission. Machines beside him blinked and beeped steadily, counting a life that had almost slipped away without warning. His throat felt dry, his memories scattered, but one thing remained painfully clear. He had been a single father trying to survive one more impossible week, working overtime shifts that never ended, skipping meals so his daughter could eat, and telling himself that exhaustion was temporary even when his body begged him to stop. The hospital room felt unreal, like a place that belonged to someone else's story. Yet the man beside him was real. The boss's presence was not cold this time, not distant, not sharp like it had always been in the office. Instead, there was something heavy in his posture, something almost broken, as if he had been carrying a burden far longer than anyone knew. He wasn't checking his phone, wasn't rushing out, wasn't treating the world like a checklist. He was simply there, watching, waiting, as if the life on that hospital bed mattered more than anything else in his empire of deadlines and profit. The single father's mind slowly pieced together fragments of what had happened, the long shift, the dizziness that had crept in like a thief, the sudden collapse near the warehouse floor where no one had expected him to fall because he was always the strong one, the dependable one, the man who worked through pain because he had no luxury of stopping. And then nothing, just darkness. What he did not know yet, what his fogged mind could not yet reach, was that his collapse had not gone unnoticed this time. Someone had seen it happen. Someone had not looked away. The boss sat in silence, remembering the moment he had received the call that shattered his usual sense of control. It had not come from a manager or a system alert or a routine report. It had come from a trembling worker who could barely speak through panic, saying that a man had fallen and was not getting up. And when the name was mentioned, something unfamiliar had stirred in him. It was just a name on payroll sheets, just another employee in a vast company. Yet something about it had forced him to leave everything behind and come here without knowing why. The hospital room carried the weight of two different worlds colliding. One man who had lived his life invisible, surviving from paycheck to paycheck, carrying a child on his back through financial storms that never seemed to end. And another man who had built his life on decisions, numbers, and distance, now sitting uncomfortably close to the reality those numbers represented. The single father's thoughts drifted to his daughter, a small girl with an imagination too big for their tiny apartment, who believed her father was the strongest person in the world because he never complained. She had no idea how many nights he had sat awake counting bills instead of sleeping, how many times he had skipped dinner pretending he wasn't hungry, how many mornings he had forced a smile before leaving for work just so she would not worry. That thought alone brought a sting stronger than the hospital pain. The boss finally stood up slightly, adjusting his coat as if unsure what role he was supposed to play in this room. He had built a reputation for being unshakable, but here, beside a man whose life he had barely noticed until now, that reputation felt hollow. He looked at the monitors, at the pale face on the bed, at the chart that revealed details no employee file ever showed. And for the first time in years, numbers meant nothing. Outside the room, life continued in the usual rushed rhythm of a hospital.